Okay, so we are Roboamp. Thank you everybody for being here and giving me the opportunity to share our story with all of you. So how many of you know what Google Amp is? Raise your hand, please. Okay, one person, 2%. So that's okay. Google Amp is in the bleeding edge of web development. AMP stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages. And we're going to do a test really quick so you can see exactly what I mean. Please use your phones, go to Google. You can Google for any term that you want. I'm just going to Google for entertainment, but you can change and Google for anything that you want. So please do that because I want to show you something. Okay, so tell me when you're done, when you have the results. Okay, so now if you start scrolling, you're probably going to see that the first results, the very first results says something that says AMP, and also you're going to see this carousel over here. Can you see this carousel? Most of you probably have seen that. And this is something that is a great selling point for AMP. AMP is something that is disrupting what is SEO. This is the latest thing that has come up in the last 15 years. So AMP stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages, and Google rewards every single website that is AMP compliant. How? Well, with the most richest real asset that Google has, search result. If your website is AMP compliant, you're going to be first in the search result. Secondly, speed should be, oops, it's working? Okay, speed should be a feature. There are a lot of tests that has been done where it says that people, almost 60% of people, leave a website if it takes longer than 3 seconds to load. In average, in mobile websites, the average speed to load is between 4 to 8 seconds. And that is insane. I was talking earlier, I was saying 8 seconds is only okay if you're doing bull riding. I mean, really, for e-commerce, it's crazy. The bounce rate obviously goes super high. The conversion rate goes obviously low because people just go out of your website if it's low. So speed should be a feature in any website. So how do we solve this? We solve this with the most elegant solution ever. Google AMP has a lot of advantages, as we saw. SEO feature, conversion rate, bounce rate, all that kind of stuff. Now, they have a big problem. The problem is Google AMP pages do not use regular HTML, so you just can't transform your website into AMP compliant. You have to rewrite your whole website, so Google then cache the copies on the CDNs and all the stuff that happens after. So how do you transform your website into AMP compliant to have all these features and on top of that being first in search result? Well, you hire a web development company, you hire a bunch of engineers or do it yourself and it's going to take forever. What Roboamp does is you just add one line of code. You don't have to program anything. This could be done for any mom and pop businesses. If you're not a developer, you can do it. You just copy and paste one line of code and we transform your website into AMP compliant on the fly. We take the problem off your shoulder, make it ours. All this happens in our servers in less than 1 second. We absolutely rewrite your website to make it AMP compliant. If you go to the official Google AMP page, where there is a lot of information and user cases from a lot of tier 1 companies, eBay right now has more than 1 billion page already converted into AMP. But there are a lot of cases. I just took two to show you how well AMP is an experience for this business and how increase their revenue. Well, these some emojis. Obviously, we want to have a website the fastest that we can. I don't know how many of you have a website, but I bet that if I try any of your websites on 3G, it's going to be slower than 3 seconds to load. And really, if you're not using AMP right now, even with us or with any other company, you're really losing. And this is coming. This is the next thing. This is the bleeding edge of web development. Our competitive advantage is that in the way that we process the HTML compared with our competitors. The biggest player in this field trying to create AMP pages is a web shop. So if you will basically go to them and say, hey, I have a website and I want to have it AMP compliant, and they're going to sit down with you. Obviously, it takes a long process. It's like having a web developer doing your website all over again. They cannot scale but those are I mean, it's one company. The good thing about working in something that is new, you don't have a lot of competitors. There are a couple of companies that do exactly the same approach that we do with one line of code, but the difference in how they process the HTML, how they process the JavaScript, and how they process the CSS is totally different than the way that we do it. So what happened is we make sure that your website looks amazing in AMP version, and when we tested thousands of other websites through our competitors, most of them are broke because of the way that they parse the HTML. So we're targeting now something that happened that we weren't expecting. We are in conversations already to start working with JCPenney. They contact us because they are doing AMP conversion, the first level page. So they have a couple of pages being AMP, and they contact us because they want to use our technology. We are also in conversation with cPanel. I don't know if you know what cPanel is, but it's a hosting platform where probably 500 million websites has been on top of cPanel, and we're trying to license our technology through them. This is always our go-to-market. Our end goal is to create the first real, truly mobile-first CMS. Nowadays, what is happening is you have a website that is, the viewport is resized to your phone, making extra HTTP requests, loading a lot of content that you don't need. So this is our go-to-market to start building our code base to create our future mobile CMS. I'm going to skip this because you guys are going to ask me about that. Okay. So this is what we're raising, and this is how we're going to spend the money. That's it. I'll keep this, I guess.
My mic isn't working. Brad, where are you?
I think I can speak. Can you hear me in the back?
I don't think it'll pick up on the video. But back to Q&A, same guidelines. Might be helpful if you'd stand and ask your questions this time, and we'll get started right now. Thank you, by the way, for your presentation. And I'm sorry that I had to cut you off.
No,
At least I didn't clap you off like Jessica told me to do. I didn't do that. That'd be rude if I did that. I didn't do any of that stuff. Who has the first question?
Good morning. Good to see you again. I know it was difficult to follow you last time, so we are doing our pitch next week. In any case, I know you mentioned HTML, right? Now, is this specific to only HTML technology or only HTML-based, web content, or is it, all different technology?
So the reason why Google developed this is because I think can you hear me in the back? Oh, it's for the video. Okay.
It's for the video.
Okay. Awesome. So the reason why Google developed this is because websites have, and this is our fault as developers, and they just load a lot of stuff that you don't need, especially when you're trying to buy something or read something. Let's say you are in the middle of the country and there is a lot of bloatware that you just don't need. So AMP basically is fat-free HTML. They cut down a lot of stuff that you don't need. Nowadays, you do have interactivity in AMP. AMP, by the way, is something that is great, that is open source. So this is not a closed system that if you have your website, make it AMP compliant, and then Google are going to kill the project. No, this is something that is going to keep going, even if something happens in the future. But yeah, we parse the CSS, we parse the JavaScript, and we parse the HTML. Now, Google AMP do have some limitations, and those limitations are the features that make this website to make and load so fast.
I see that you're doing transformation on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is you are a man in the middle in the whole equation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you handle SSL-enabled pages? Because there's a whole world is moving towards SSL-enabled websites.
So it doesn't, this is how it works. Let me see if I have, well, it's hard to explain, but basically imagine that this is your website, right? This is your website. So when I say you add one line of code, that line of code that you add goes to the header section of your website. So this is transparent to the user never is going to see this. But when Google visits your website, okay, it's going to see that there is one line. And that line basically tells Google, hey Google, I have an AMP version of this website that is located in this address. That address is our server, is where our algorithm lives. So Google goes and visits our server, because you say so, and then on the fly we do the transformation. So because basically we are parsing the HTML, we don't need to have an SSL connection. We basically just reading whatever is the browser rendering, okay? So what next step is Google validates that we're telling them that a page is AMP compliant, and Google create millions of copies of your website and storage in all the different CDNs. So the end result of those pages, when you click in those search results, is not hitting our client's server, is not hitting our server. All those are copies that are stored in Google's own server. So SSL, it doesn't play any role here.
That's what my understanding is. You're using the GFEs to as a front end for the content elements only. But my question is, how you are, I am A, I trust B company, right? Now you're a man in the middle for me, for my SSL connection.
No, not really. What we're doing is just, imagine that you're reading the HTML that is rendered. Basically, when you have an SSL page, basically that means that that website is secure. But what we're doing is just reading the content. We're not working with the protocol at all. We're just parsing the content, changing the HTML tags, and telling Google this is an AMP compliant. Google doesn't care if it is SSL or not.
Oh, okay. So you are not in the user conversation.
No, we don't have access to the database. This is something secure. If you want to use us to create an AMP version, we don't have access to your database. We don't have access to your data. We don't have nothing to your resources. We don't have access to nothing like that.
Who's your best target customer? Are you accessible to smaller companies like mine? I have 2 websites, but that's interesting to me. I mean, who are you really targeting for this product?
So our goal, that's a great question. Our goal is to have 1 million of websites 1 year from now. So our goal is that anybody, mom and pop businesses, even if you have a WordPress blog, you just go put your URL and boom, that's it. We create everything. And I want to go back to the pricing model, because depending on how many visits you have, we have a free plan. You can go today, go to roboamp.com and sign up, because we have a freemium model. Basically, we're going to create everything free. You're going to have all the features. The only thing is we're going to have banner on the bottom. That is part of our customer acquisition program. But yeah, right now our target are those companies that they already have connections. For instance, we are working with a couple of advertisement agencies, and in average, those advertisement agencies, they have between 50 to 100 clients. So that's a way for us to grow exponentially, trying to leverage the business relationship that they already have. But yeah, our end goal is anybody can just go and create their own version. Yes.
Sorry. Yes, I'm
I'm
going to go before Grant, sorry. I look at this model. If someone were to come and jump on a plan for AMP and they're with you for 18 months, how easy is it for them to leave or just discontinue the AMP service?
I mean, they can cut the service at any time. Let's say worst case scenario for us as a business. Let's say that you have five pages that you never update ever, okay? You sign up with us 1 month or a couple of days, whatever, and then you just cut the process. Your website, the problem is you have to create your own AMP pages somehow. Basically, we are creating the AMP pages for you. This is like, okay, you need to find or a new provider or create the AMP pages. We are the guys who are taking the responsibility of creating your AMP pages for you on the fly. So it's obviously, once you cut that cut, it's like trying to watch Netflix without being subscribed to Netflix. It's the same kind of thing. So you're not going to have AMP pages anymore, and at least not with us. Make sense? Did I answer your question?
Not super technical, so
Oh, no.
forgive on the back end at least. But when we were making our website, it was really important to us that it be beautiful, so custom coded, built on WordPress, but also fairly quick loading, not AMP quick, but 3 seconds or less. How does this does it change at all the look and the feel of the website when you have things like parallax elements and maybe videos that are loading?
There is a great question because obviously, like I said earlier, in order to be so fast, they have to cut down a lot of stuff. So for most of the HTML tags, there is an equivalent that is in the AMP HTML, the subset of HTML, there is an equivalent. So yes, you do have access to video, Facebook likes, all that kind of stuff is already equivalent. Stuff like parallels, that is kind of animation, that kind of stuff, they just chop out that because they say if you're mobile, you want information, you don't want all that fancy stuff. Like I said earlier, this is a living beast. Every month or so, Google engineers, they have like open call where everybody can participate and give updates or give a suggestion on the code. Most of the fancy stuff that you can do with JavaScript on desktop, you cannot do that on AMP. But for instance, for e-commerce, changing the product, changing the size, changing the color, changing the amount in your shopping cart, you can do all that kind of stuff.
So AMP, just to follow up, I hadn't heard this in the presentation, may have missed it. AMP is, it only affects mobile, not desktop?
That's another great question because the name doesn't help. I mean, accelerating mobile pages, it makes the assumption that it only works on mobile, but it also does work on desktop. You can have your whole page doesn't have to be typical HTML. It could be AMP page. Even if the website for the project is ampproject.org. If you go there, you see a regular website, but that website that you're seeing is an AMP website. So yes, you can have your whole website could be AMP. It doesn't stand as only for mobile. In mobile is where it shines the most, right? Because it loads super fast.
Gotcha.
So earlier, kind of piggybacking off of his question, when he asked if the clients can cut off the service or stop using the service, so does that mean that, let's say they stop using your service, well, their website, since Google's basically duplicated all the AMP websites for their server, so now will their regular website that they pay money for not work?
No.
Be shown?
We don't touch your regular website. Your regular website has nothing to do with us. You have a regular website and you say, okay, AMP. The AMP, you tell to Google, I'm sorry. Google, we have an AMP version, and this AMP version is in this address, and that's our service. So if you're not paying monthly anymore, you just cannot tell Google, our AMP version is here. You know what I'm trying to say?
So they would
This
have
is
to
a
go back
special-
and change and remove that line
Yeah.
of code
Yeah.
to have Google find their site again?
Yeah, and
Okay.
that happened. I mean, Google is scanning constantly, so it's going to take 24 hours or so to re-index everything again.
So there was an interesting comment towards the end of your presentation. You
Okay.
said you wanted to be mobile first CMS. Does that mean can I go to Roboamp and actually create a website from scratch?
Eventually, that's our end goal. Yes.
So today you can't.
To no, I mean that's something that we want in the roadmap. I mean, and this is kind of out of the scope of the presentation, but it is crazy. And I say this as an engineer and all that kind of stuff, but it is crazy that if you Google today any kind of tool that automatically creates a mobile app version of your website, almost 10 years after the iPhone, there is nothing like that. And the tools that exist are just terrible. So that's our end goal, to make something that is specifically designed from the ground up to have those kind of conversions. I just can't explain why there is nothing like that that actually works and works well. But that's our end goal, yes.
We can take one more question from the audience. Okay.
So very interesting concept. Congratulations. So you said that goal is 1 million users by the end of year will lead you to 5 million to 10 million in revenue. So that's your projected
Yeah.
numbers. So the $5 per month and $10 per month, this is something that you are projecting that you would keep. And the second is, what advantage you think you have over your competitors? Like, if I were to sign up today, like, what is that compelling thing? Why I should come to you?
All right, let me see, go back to the difference. Okay, so as a startup, one of the hardest things is always pricing, right? Once you have the product market fit, pricing is always challenging. So this is the price that we have tested that people are comfortable paying, especially small businesses, because it's something that they can just budget for it, right? But when JCPenney contact us, right, and send us an email, hey guys, we want to talk with you how to integrate, we're not going to charge them $20 monthly. When I had a meeting with the VP of engineering, I asked them, okay, how many visits you have daily? And they have 4 million visits daily. So obviously, if all those people start, using our service, that is going to kill our servers. Obviously, we need to budget for having much amount. And there is also another leg of the business that is doing not only just one-line conversion, but also doing custom integrations, like for e-commerce. There is nothing on e-commerce for this. So for custom integration or for high volume traffic, the pricing is going to be different. And this is the price model, and I'm being absolutely honest, that we're thinking today is going to help us scale. But if we see that there is opportunity to charge more or eventually charge less, we're going to charge our pricing. In terms of the difference with our competitors, I refer to this slide. I think I touched a bit in the presentation, is in the way that we process the HTML, in the ways that we parse the CSS and parse the JavaScript, to having to create kind of a mirror image of your mobile website and make it AMP compliant. That's the biggest difference that we have with our competitors.
All right, the very last question, Roberto.
Yes.
What can we as a community do to help you? 1 minute or less.
If you want, it will be great if you go and sign up. If you sign up, you're going to have less than 1,000 visits daily. We are going to do this for free for you as soon as we launch. We are pre-launch, and we're probably going to launch in 2 weeks. Share it with other people, with other developers, with other business-related people. We're still closing our seed round, so if there is any investor in the room, please feel free to approach if this is something interesting for you. I'm going to be around and happy to answer any other question that you guys might have.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.